This morning adds just another reason to tell your kids to put down the phone, tablet, or computer.
Here to share more about finding a balance for screen time for children and teenagers is our health expert, Dr. Mandira Mehra from SSM Health. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I was just saying I need you to deliver a message to my kids about this topic, and then you're like, well, they'd be watching this, consuming this on a tablet. So I need some help here. I'm sure I'm not the only parent out there.
Right.
It really is addictive behavior, and like with all addictions, I'm imagining there are not positive side effects to this.
Of course, and just like you said, this is not just a childhood problem or a teenage problem. I think we as adults are all guilty of this as well. The study did specifically look at the brain of teenage children, and it was a study coming out of Seoul, Korea, and it's a small study, but it did show some interesting changes that literally us being on our phones, being phone addicts, did change our brain chemistry. So it's not just a matter of, oh, we think it might be affecting behavior, especially that of teenage minds or young minds. It literally changed that brain chemistry. So there's a part of our brain called the anterior cingulate cortex. Just know that that's really involved with kind of those feedback behaviors that we love to do. So maybe too much eating, gambling, drinking, things like that. That part of the brain gets really active with those addictive behaviors. So this study showed in the teenagers diagnosed with this addictive cell phone behavior, that part of the brain was super active, and they looked at a neurotransmitter called GABA. That was increased. So in the study, they took these teenagers and they did some cognitive behavioral therapy for weeks. Eventually, those neurotransmitters did come down, and that area of the brain did show kind of less activity. So there is hope for people, but it is an interesting study that does show that it does change our brain chemistry and perhaps can have effects on our life, later on, past our teenage years. There is another study, though, that does show that maybe it's not the amount of hours on our screens, on our phones, on our tablets, but maybe the effect that it has on our life. So there was a second study that looked more at children and said, was it just the amount of hours? We keep focusing, as parents on how many hours is my child really on the screen? Instead, the study kind of shifts that and says, how much is it interfering with their social, emotional, overall just well-being? So, kind of two aspects here. One, we need more studies. B, we know that it is affecting our brain chemistry. And C, really striking that balance between social, emotional, physical, mental well-being.
Need to learn how to talk.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in this about a minute left, Dr. Mehra wanted to talk about the best of the best athletes kind of checking in with themselves and talking about brain health. I mean, they're using meditation out there on the fields more and more. Yeah, so, lots of players, individual players have come out and said being in the NFL, being at this sport that's really at the height of its success and making millions of dollars and all the pressure, it's such a mental game, especially when you get to that level, but even at a local level, it's such a mental game. And so coaches like Steve Carroll have come out, the Colts, the 49ers, Broncos, Atlanta Falcons, these are teams with high success rates. They've all come out and offered their players some mindfulness techniques, coaching techniques. This is amazing because the NFL in recent years has cut back on some practice time. So as you cut back on practice time, you think, how can we still strengthen and train our athletes? So being mindful really is a psychological process of just being kind of hyper aware of being in that moment. And so you can, sort of think that under that intense pressure, the mind may be distracted. You may be 50% in the game and 50% thinking about the pressure of the next play. So really being mindful is being like 100% there and then just working towards success. And like you said, committing that time to do that is pretty remarkable. Yep, and a lot of players and coaches are saying this is now going to become the norm. I mean, when coaches are seeing success rates, they are thinking about maybe making this mandatory. A lot of players have said they're huge advocates of it. So I think it's something we can incorporate in our everyday life, not just at the NFL level making millions of dollars. That'd be nice.
Got to be present.
Got to be present, got to be mindful, just kind of envisioning that success and, mind over matter.
We can try.
Yeah.
It's good to see you.
Nice
Thanks,
to see
Dr.
you.
Mehra.
Thank you so much.